our plan was that in the first 2 years, essentially students would be in very large classes for 2 hours a week, up to 500, but then in a class of about 15 once a week. But we then went on and we planned that in the upper division, last 2 years, they would have 3 hours lectures a week and 1 2-hour seminar, so of about 15. Now that, I think, was much more revolutionary than anything else, more than the trimester or anything.
Yes, it was certainly a strength when tutorials were capped at 15 at both upper division and lower division level, and the dean would let them run with 10 or 12 students, and up to 10 or 12 you can get everybody as an equal participant and a sense of involvement and a commitment to coming. And it's more a group in search of understanding than it is teacher and taught.
We actually recruited people on that system.
Yeah.
In British universities, for example, at that time especially, there was only one professor in a department, and he was the head of the department, and he was appointed without term. He just stayed. So in Tom Bodamore's case, for example, Tom was up for the chair of sociology at the London School of Economics. And I used to follow all of this, and then we saw that he didn't get it. Well, once he hadn't got it, he had to move, or he would move, because there was no way he would get it until the other guy died. So we immediately got in touch with him. Didn't say we heard you didn't get the chair, but
Happy
said,
you didn't get it.
You know, how would you like to come to Simon Fraser? And that was a definite recruiting gimmick, if you want. And I don't know anyone else that did that. I mean, I talked to a lot of the people in other new universities, and I think we were really quite creative in recruiting.
But we actually had professors that didn't have doctorates.
Mainly in PSA, and that's
Yeah.
because Tom Bodamore didn't. He was internationally known, and he had a chair, not a chair, but he was senior at LSE and at the Sorbonne in Paris. But he didn't have a PhD, and he didn't believe in insisting on a PhD. I must say, I think that caused him some problems later. He appointed the only person I've ever heard of who had failed a Rhodes Scholarship, and was very active in the radical movement, getting rid of Tom Bodamore, who had appointed him.
In the fall of 1968, I was doing a graduate class on modern British theatre, and we worked on a one-act play to the point of performing it. John Arden play Ars Longa, Vita, Brevis, which was about order versus disorder, and it was about gender too, which wasn't a word we used in the 60s. And we had it ready at the time of the sit-in in the admin building, and some of the students said, why don't we go and offer to perform it for the people who are sitting in? So we went over and knocked on the door and said, we've got a short play we think you might like to see. And they said, we'll have to call a plenary. We'll let you know in half an hour whether we want you or not. Plenary was a vogue word at the time for any open-ended discussion in which everybody could participate at any length. So we said, why don't we do it in the Mall? And we did it just outside the library. And part of the climax of the play was that there was a fight and I was knocked down, and there was the comment, that's the first time I've ever seen a professor knocked down, but I'm sure it won't be the last.
Well, the strike, that was bizarre in some ways, and having my classes invaded because I, was not in favor of the strike. I thought it was totally uncalled for and simply viewed it as a device that the radicals were trying to use to take power. And so my lower division class was invaded and canceled, and I still had an upper division one. And so when we were sitting there, we sang the PSA song in the lower division class, the students I knew very well. And this song went something like this: PSA, PSA, that's where they take your brains away, and so forth. So, one thing about the radicals, they had no sense of humor at all. And of course, for us to remain sane, and we had some problems with that too, why we had to have some humor injected into it.
One thing it did for me, it made me an activist. I'm still an activist. It made me interested in everything that's going on in the world. And I was in a good spot. I was at the reception desk right at the beginning of the university. It's not there anymore. And I met people from all over the world, all types of people. And they were all eager to talk and find out about SFU, and then they would talk about themselves and where they came from. So in that way, I got a really good education.